What up, everybody? It's Rob the Metal Guy, and I'm back at you with another video here for the channel. This channel, of course, if you're not familiar, I talk about all the different types of music I like: rock, metal music, punk, post-punk, film scores, synthwave, you name it. I cover it all. Talk about some other stuff as well: manga, anime, horror movies. The list goes on and on. And the previous videos, I've been doing a lot of collection updates, talking about new albums I've gotten, going through my collection, discussing a lot of the releases. I have quite a few vinyl CDs when it comes to mostly metal, hard rock, but I have a ton of different styles of music: new wave, post-punk, hardcore punk. Like I said, even I'm a huge fan of film scores. Got a couple releases that are actually the soundtracks to anime and also some movie stuff. So I'm also a huge fan of Dungeon Synth. If you want to check it out, I have a video talking about my favorite Dungeon Synth releases, favorite artists like Old Tower, Mortis, talking about that. Atmospheric black metal. Did a video talking about like Luster, Summoning. Actually, if you really want to talk about or hear me talk about through writing, actually read, better way to phrase it, go check out the blog, rockandmetaltemple.blogspot.com. I did a ranking of the atmospheric black metal band Summoning, because that's how much I'm a huge fan of that artist. Summoning, one of the greatest atmospheric black metal bands of all time from Austria. If you haven't checked Summoning out, go do it. They're a great band. But did that, and yeah, this channel, I go through it all. And this video, I said to myself, Rob, is there something you wanted to talk about, get off your chest? And actually, my rant here pertains to reviewing. And I've been doing album reviews for rock, metal music, punk, just music in general, I guess you could say, but mainly with a focus on metal, hard rock, for a long time now. I would say 12 plus years of my life. And again, it's not something I make my money off of. It's more of a hobby. But I've been very much involved, written for different websites in my early years. Actually, my friend and I, we started a website, did that, where I was writing the content, he was running the website. So I did the articles, the interviews with the bands. And then I took a course in college to help. It was actually a advanced writing course, part of my communications major. They had that offered. And I thought, yeah, this can help kind of give me more experience with more written journalism, because at the time I was doing a lot of radio journalism. I hosted my radio show when it came to the communications world. So I said, yeah, I'll do this. And I also liked the professor. He was a cool dude. And so I said, I want to take this class. And it really helped my writing skills and also my understanding of journalism, especially in the world of written print journalism. And he introduced me to Blogger, because that was part of the course. Was he wanted us to start using Blogger to write articles like consistently. I said, well, I write my music reviews. And he goes, perfect for you, so do it. Hey, why don't you do that? Start writing your music reviews on Blogger. And so that's where I kind of shifted away from my friend and I doing the website. Just things were happening, and I also had worked with other people, shifted away. There's a lot of weird stories. Working with a couple people in Europe, I would write for them, and I knew going into it, I'm not making money from this. It's more I get to listen to music, right? I get sent albums ahead of time to listen to. That's cool. So when it came to money, I was not expecting to be getting enough to go buy a Ferrari, all right? I knew right away these guys weren't going to pay me. But eventually I said, I'm just going to do things my own way. And that's what Blogger allowed. And so the Rock and Metal Temple.blogspot.com, which I've been doing now since, what was that, 2014, I believe is when I started. It's been great, and I've enjoyed doing it. I also like the fact, the format, I don't give ratings. And this is kind of part of my rant and stuff when it comes to reviewing and my philosophy on reviewing. There's a reason I don't like giving numbers. I used to do it because the one website I worked for, this guy, he wanted me to rate stuff, right, out of 10 or something. And it just, I've always felt that you can become a victim of your own rating system, right? Or you can become lost because who's to say, how are you basing what is on a scale of 1 to 10? It's pretty much your own opinions. And that's what album reviewing is all about. And the same goes for movie reviews, professional wrestling, right? These are opinions. People form what they hear, what they see, right? In terms of movies and professional wrestling. But with music, it's what you're listening to, right? The music. And then you're judging, right? You're coming to a determination. So for me, when I came to starting the blog and doing the Rock and Metal Temple, I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about what I am hearing. I'm going to express the songs I like, the stuff that I'm just not sold on, talk about the band and what they sound like, but also if I know the band, if I've heard the band, I'm going to talk about historically, how does this new release stack up to their previous works? And I feel that's something that's so important. And this is also very important right now in the world of hard rock and metal, I've felt. And Justin Horville brought this up, J-Dog, on his channel. And I really liked what he had to say. If you haven't checked out his videos, go do so. Him and his brothers run Hell's Headbangers. Great distribution for metal music website that I've bought countless releases, from over the years here. And he was talking about how these fans, they get upset because you have a band like Addict, right? Oh, they sound like King Diamond, Merciful Fate ripoff, this and that. And you get these people, these metal elitists, they get kind of stubborn, right? They don't want to break out of the freaking late 80s, early 90s of music, right? They want to just stick with their classic death metal releases, or they only listen to the thrash metal of the 80s, and everything that's new is just recycled ripoffs. And I've always felt, and this I would start coming across when I was doing album reviews for the blog, I would get people reaching out or comments saying, oh yeah, this is just a ripoff of this. And my problem with that, and Justin Horville brought this up, and I do agree. What's going to happen, because a lot of those classic metal bands, as much as we love them, we have to come to the realization they're getting old. They're not going to be doing this, okay? I'm sorry. I mean, I'm a huge fan of King Diamond, but King Diamond in the next 10 years, potentially, right, in the next 20 years, will not be making new albums, right? And there's a lot of bands that we will see. I'm sorry, how much longer do you think Morbid Angel is going to be making new releases? So when these people go, oh, well, I've read this in reviews, they sound like a ripoff of Morbid Angel. Okay, I mean, yeah, they sound like Morbid Angel, but they're coming up with their own riffs. The quality of the music sounds good. And that's what I'm describing. Like in my reviews for bands, I will describe what I am listening to from that band. I never try to say the new Hemotoxin, well, it sure as hell doesn't stack up to Death Human. Of course not. I mean, freaking Hemotoxin has not been around the same amount of years as Death, okay? And you cannot, especially given the legacy of Death and what Chuck Schuldiner accomplished, young metal bands do not have a chance to stack up to that right now. Now, in 10 to 15 years, maybe we look back at some of these Hemotoxin releases or some of these other metal releases I've heard from bands that I've liked. I'm using Hemotoxin as an example because they put out an album recently. If you're a fan of tech, death metal, thrash, you got to check it out. Even some progressive elements are thrown in there. But tech, death thrash, Hemotoxin, great band. And yeah, there's some parallels, but I would never, someone would say, well, it doesn't stack up to frickin' like Death, right? Yeah, it's unfair. And those are the types of reviews and the type of, I guess, connections that people will use that I get frustrated in. And I really do, in my style of album reviewing, I try to avoid. Because if anything, when I reviewed like the new Hemotoxin album, for example, I talked about how it stacked up to their previous releases. I saw this band start playing when I saw them was 2012 when they opened for Havoc. That was the first time I saw them live. I said, hey, they're young, they're hungry, they haven't figured it out yet. It's still a little wild, untamed, in terms of the direction, the sound. But I noticed with each new release, especially with Biological Enslavement, compared to their first album, they took a huge step. And the band kept doing it. And especially on this release, in terms of the sound quality and what I thought, that's what you should be looking at. And that's what we should be trying to promote. Not, well, doesn't sound like Obituary, it doesn't sound like Deicide, so I'm just going to write it off. And I feel that sometimes is a problem in the metal community. And we have this stubbornness where we want to just hold on, right? And we want to put the classic albums on a pedestal to where young bands are, I mean, it's unfair for them to, try to live up because, again, they're starting out or they've only been around for 10 some years, right? Where a lot of the albums I see people that won't get over themselves, right? And they, are referencing are like 30 plus year albums. Like you can't do that. Okay, when you're reviewing and when we're really looking at up and coming artists, we need to look at what they, bring to the table and produce. Not, oh my goodness, they don't match up, or oh, they're just a ripoff of this or that. You also have to come into play, and this is something I will acknowledge in my reviews. Yes, not many bands are going to be reinventing the wheel. A lot of the music we like, extreme metal music, right? People have been influenced. So they're going to have qualities, but it's their own sound. It's their own approach. It's not like they're ripping note for note certain bands. And here's an example I'll give, which I love this album from Ceremonial Bloodbath, Genesis of Malignant Entropy, because, yeah, you could say there are bands who play this style of blackened war metal, death metal, but honestly, they made the music themselves. They didn't just copy something note for note. They also produced a really intense, unique sounding album that I thought just definitely blew me away when I first heard it. And I love their first album, Tides of Blood, which I consider to be a darker release. I like that more, but this album, very intense. And that's why it was an album that I put in such high regard when I had my ranking for albums of the year 2023, because, all right, this style of music has been done before. There are bands that we can go down a list and say, well, this band does this style of music and they did it, and it's, oh, this sounds similar to that. Okay, but when you listen to the album and the music itself, does it sound good? Does it grab you? Is it something that you're going to listen to again? Those are the factors you have to take in, right? The songs. What do the songs do for you? And that's how I go about writing my reviews. I try so hard to avoid the whole, well, this has already been done and, it doesn't live up to Deicide Legion or something like that. Or it doesn't live up to Beherit. So I'm just going to write it off. And that's where I really do feel the metal community, and I've noticed this throughout the years, and a lot of people brought it up, the elitism, the fact that people also, for some reason, they just stick to the classics. This is actually, here's a great example, Eddie Trunk. If anyone is not familiar, Eddie Trunk is a radio DJ host. He used to host a show called That Metal Show. I watched like every single episode when I was in high school and in college until the show was canceled. He's very knowledgeable and insightful about the bands he likes. Give him credit. Very knowledgeable historian. But Eddie Trunk, I'm going to be honest, he just never would give young up-and-coming bands a chance or use his platform to promote young up-and-coming artists. No, instead, he stuck with the bands he liked. You just got hair metal artists from the 80s that he was connected to and he could tell stories about, and that's what he was promoting. And I'm sorry, that does not help, one, get young fans interested. Two, it doesn't help get people exposed to an up-and-coming artist that can be really impressive and maybe get people to go, wow, this is awesome. Let's talk about this style of music. And that's always been my issue with the rock metal community. It's sometimes you have these people that just don't want to get out of the classic world. They want to just stick with it, and they look at the young artists and say, oh, that's cool, okay, you guys, but it's already been done. Just, how are you going to grow the scene? Or how are you going to get young fans? And how are you going to just get people to check out the up-and-coming artists? And that's where there's the frustration, I feel sometimes. That there are some really talented artists. And I'm going to say this in rock, punk, and all types of music, that I wish they got more recognition because they're putting out great music. And I'll talk about, when you want to say an album from top to bottom that just blew me away, that I want everyone to check out, because when you listen to this album and the different styles, sounds, and just the complete production from top to bottom, Lathe of Heaven. I have talked about this band in my past videos, and there is a reason, because this release is still, in my personal opinion, again, it's my opinion, okay? If I was to give this, I'm not going to be like Dave Meltzer, the wrestling journalist, and give 7 stars out of 5, but if I was to do something like that and give a rating, this is a 7-star out of 5-star album. Like, this is exceptional, okay? Because what Lathe of Heaven did was they took a style of music, post-punk, some new wave, some crust punk, but they made their own sound. They wrote songs that stand out, that you can listen to over and over again. This is a band that really just has an individual, unique sound. And yeah, you could point out influences, or, oh, this sounds like this, that riff sounds like that. But when you look at everything overall, this album is unique. It is special. And that's why when I wrote my review, I pointed out a lot of the stuff I liked, which was pretty much the entire album. I don't believe I had any complaints, because it was a refreshing sound that I had not heard in a long time, okay? And now, granted, there's been metal releases like that, and I've talked about it. Like, you hear something that is unique, it stands out. And those are the albums that we should be really talking about, and the young artists that we should be promoting and building up, because that way you keep it going. You give people a chance to discover this stuff and get the artists some more recognition. And there's fans out there that can potentially discover, and then they'll go back and maybe listen to some of the classic stuff too, right? There's a benefit to promoting young artists that then can maybe connect to the younger audience. They're going to go back and listen to the classic stuff, right, that influenced the bands. And that's in like the world of metal. I've always said, if you get young people to a show and they hear a band, right, that was influenced by like the new wave of British heavy metal, they might go then and say, hey, this band listened to bands such as Raven, Diamond Head, right, Saxon. They're going to go and check those bands out possibly, right? And you're going to have this interest, right, for the older bands that establish the scene, the music, and then the up-and-coming bands that have been influenced and are trying to make their own way. That's what I feel like when you're reviewing, you need to take that into consideration, right? Sometimes I do feel you get reviewers that they're just stuck, right? They just don't want to just get out of it. And the same thing goes for movies. Actually, honestly, I'm going to say this about movies. Movie reviewers, to be honest, they're just inept right now, because Hollywood is struggling. Now, there are some honest people out there. I will give shout outs to guys like Boots to Reboots. He's kind of a satirical horror movie reviewer, but I actually liked how he describes the new films when he goes and sees them, with the comedy relief. He has like the multiple personalities, but he has a good channel when it comes to looking at classic films and the remakes that have been done of those horror films, and also going to see the new films. Liked his stuff. I've checked out some other people and their takes, and I do feel right now, especially like with Disney, it's amazing to see the supposed reviewers and what they have to say versus the audience, which is pretty much saying this is garbage. And I mean, Disney's struggling. I'm sorry. Disney, the superhero films, oh God, what else? There's just Hollywood in general. So if you want to talk about a real journalistic crisis, I think that the reviewing of films right now, and also just films in general, I mean, the medium is suffering. I think you look at theaters and everything, God, as much as the metal community, and I've ranted a little bit here about the proms and my thoughts, no. Film reviews and just that whole culture there, I'm sorry. As a person that has gone to the movies for years, and I really haven't gone to see anything as of recent, because there's nothing to go see, and the cost is ridiculous to see stuff right? To take a chance on a film that's going to be mediocre, why do I want to pay an inflated price the way costs have gone up? It's just not worth it. And I feel that film reviewers are really having to take that into consideration when it's like, how do you want to tell people about this film when you know if you say, oh yeah, this is a great film, go see it, people go see it and go, wow, that sucked, I wasted my money, I'm not going to trust that film reviewer ever again, damn it, 5 stars my ass. So same thing goes with wrestling reviewers. It's all opinion based, people. No one's 100% expert, especially some of these people that have never done it, right? Now, granted, I myself, yes, I play guitar. I've been in pseudo little, projects when I was younger, friends and stuff jamming, but I never was in a serious band. But I've been involved in radio. I do have some, I guess you could say, background to where, hey, I make an opinion. I'm not an expert, but I have some, as a fan too, you do have some credibility to make a comment, especially if you do it in, good faith. Where a lot of these people that do reviews, I'll be honest, and like I said, going back to wrestling, they're doing it for self-serving, trying to gain a following. Some people have made a career out of it. Dave Meltzer, these guys that honestly, they're just glorified opinion writers. And that's what they are. And yeah, they report supposed journalism without facts. They get things wrong. They don't go back and, do any redactions to their stories. They don't retract or do all that too. They just, it's kind of like, whoops, we just threw something out there that wasn't true, but it's all good. Keep on, spreading false information. That stuff, honestly, and I've always thought about that too. When I would write articles for music, you want to make sure you verify before you put out, because people are going to read that, then they're going to take it, then they're going to share it, and you're just going to have misinformation, crazy stuff going around. And that's happened in the world of music, I've seen for sure, right? We've noticed at times metal bands, supposedly this guy got fired, or this band broke up, or this band, something happened. Oh, no, that's not the case. So you always have to be careful. And I do believe that if you are going to cover anything, sports, movies, music, wrestling, just all over, right? Hell, if you're going to write about manga, you do have to think and have some journalist integrity, right? When you're doing it, because if not, it becomes a circus. And that's what we've seen. So these are my thoughts. If you are interested in diving into this discussion a little further, I really like to talk about it. Having been a communications major, it's something that I've brought up before with friends, people. It's a conversation talking about, again, the responsibilities of someone who is an album reviewer, journalist in any type of medium. And it also gives us a chance to talk about, what can, the metal or music community do to promote up-and-coming artists, right? Because that's always been a thing that I care passionately about. Is I love the classic albums. I love the classic bands. I'm a huge fan of all things hard rock metal. But at the same time, I really do try to give more attention to the young artists that send me albums for review, because those are the artists, if I get a chance to hear, I could get them promote and get more people to check out. And I just see that more as a advancement for the style of music, right? Again, you still want to listen to, if an older band is putting out albums, definitely check those out. But also, we don't want to just take away from an opportunity to promote the young artists and just push them to the side like, oh, that's nice what you do. But so yeah, if you have a comment, leave it below. If you also want to check out my past videos, do so here at the channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. I'm Rob Mel Guy, signing out. Have a good one, everybody. Later.